You may be wondering, what is it with the scraggly old dude in the Santa cap? Well, there's a story, and it begins on October 11th, 1991. I was a campus minister at a New England boarding school, and there was trouble at Wentworth Hall, which was the dorm I shared with about 60 teenage boys. They had a habit of flying down the 4 flights of stairs and bursting through the front door. And that morning, they'd done it one time too many. They'd knocked the door off its hinges. I heard the crash and went down to put the pieces together. So I put the door back in its frame and wanted to seal it up until physical plant could come and repair it. I couldn't lock it from the inside since it was an emergency exit, so I put a sign over it, and it just said, "Don't go through the door, it's broken. Take the side exits, just a few paces out of your way." The sign, you couldn't miss it. In fact, it was over the doorknob, so you had to push it to the side to get to the doorknob to get through the door. But for all that, the kids could not break themselves of the habit of going through the door, which came crashing down again. We went back and forth with this for a bit. It went on until the dorm emptied out, with everybody heading over to the all-school assembly. I put the door in place one last time and headed over myself to discover that our speaker that morning was David Brower. Brower was in his 70s at that point and was easily one of the most distinguished environmentalists, not just in the U.S., but in the world. He was the first executive director of the Sierra Club, went on to found the Earth Island Institute, the League of Conservation Voters, etc., etc. An amazingly accomplished individual. That morning, he was there to teach us, more than teach us, to warn us about what he called global warming. He laid it out in detail, how the pollution from our industrial society was dumping gigatons of CO2 into the atmosphere along with other greenhouse gases, that this was changing the air's chemistry, increasing the solar radiation absorption. That meant that the ice was melting, the seas were rising along with temperatures, and that the end result of all of this would be catastrophic. So we had to do something about this. And what did we need to do? Well, it was simple but not easy. We were going to have to change some of the most fundamental assumptions and habits of our consumer civilization. Whoa, that hit me hard. I had just spent a big chunk of the morning trying to change a relatively minor habit and saw how very difficult that was. So fundamental, deep-seated habits, we had our work cut out for us. Well, it's been over 30 years now, and my memory of that morning, of what Brower taught me, has never left. I've been involved with a range of environmental and activist engagements over the years. But recently, as the climate crisis has accelerated into a full-blown emergency, well, that's the reason for the Santa cap. I've written an illustrated book, Santa Soaked, a story for all ages, which is Santa's own tale of his climate awareness and action as his home in the Arctic melts. I've combined that with a storytelling workshop where friends and family gather in community to share our own climate awareness stories and the action that we can take together. I hope you can join us. I hope to hear your stories. Thank you so much for listening to mine. And don't forget this.